With me now from the Heritage Foundation, Hans von Spakovsky. Hans, good to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, Hans, so talk to me about this caveat of Joe Biden's, because I believe it's a crutch that the left often uses when they say undocumented workers who are paying taxes. There seems to be a problem with that statement, inherent to that statement.
What is, they use the term undocumented immigrants as if these people are here legally and just don't have their documents with them. No, these people are in the United States illegally. They are not entitled to be working, for example. Aliens who are here legally in the U.S. can only work if they've been issued a work permit by the Department of Homeland Security. So these individuals are not only are they working illegally, the employers who are employing them are violating federal law by doing so. The idea that you would provide them with benefits instead of, if you find them working, picking them up so they can be removed from the U.S. and not prosecuting the employers for knowingly hiring them is just absurd. It's basically trying to extinguish the line between legal and illegal immigration.
Well, I think that's exactly what the agenda of the left is. They do want to extinguish that line. There's also, this is not a crime without a victim either, because when an undocumented immigrant or an illegal alien, whatever phrase you want to use, is working here in the United States, if they are working not under the table, meaning not for cash only, then they're using a stolen Social Security number or a fraudulent Social Security number, which harms whoever they've stolen it from.
Yeah, and potentially they are taking jobs away from Americans. I'm going to give you a quick example of this. During the Obama administration, they actually went and fined the sheriff's department in Colorado because they were giving a preference to hiring U.S. citizens as deputies and not non-citizens. And that's just crazy that they would do that. The American citizens should get preferences when it comes to hiring.
Well, of course, if we're talking about the United States of America, of course, citizens should get preference for hiring versus that's a no-brainer. I mean, that's not even that shouldn't be a controversial thing to say. It should be very common sense. So the other part of this, aside from, the philosophy of it or the value system part or the fact that it's not a no-victim crime, is also how would our system handle this? So when she says subsidized health care, she means free health care for illegal aliens. If there are anywhere between 11 and 22 million illegal aliens currently in our country, and this is not counting the influx that would arrive at our borders if word were to get out that we were giving free health care to anybody, even if they weren't a citizen, how would our healthcare system handle this? I'm not even talking about the money for a second. How would our system handle this influx?
Oh, I don't think they would. They would be able to do it. And hospitals all over the country, particularly in areas of the Southwest, which has large numbers of illegal aliens, they would lose large amounts of money, I have no doubt, through medical care that they don't actually get reimbursed from illegal aliens and that they don't get from the federal government. So it would be extremely costly to the American taxpayer, who really would be the ones ending up paying for this.
Right. And that brings it back to the idea of if you're not paying into the system, maybe you ought not to be allowed to reap the benefits of the system either. That's sort of the common definition of fairness. And I'm not talking about emergencies. No one wants to deny emergency care to anybody, no matter their circumstance here in the country. We're a humane, generous nation. We're talking about comprehensive health care of the definition of Obamacare, for example. So there's another theory on top of this about why the Democrats want to do this. They pretend to be humane. They pretend to be welcoming. But there's this political science strategy from the 1960s called the Cloward-Piven strategy that essentially states that the way to change America from a mostly independent, self-sustaining, individualist nation into a welfare state is to flood the welfare system to the point where the welfare system collapses and thus can be remade into an entire nanny state. It seems to me it's pretty hard to argue that that's not what the Democrats are trying to do.
Well, that, in fact, might be the effect if, in fact, 12 to 15 million illegal aliens in the country were suddenly treated as citizens and given all of the same kind of government benefits that citizens are entitled to, particularly because that number, as you said, would not remain at that number. We would have a huge influx because this would act as a magnet to bring even more illegal aliens into the country. And look, we are already suffering under enormous debt. This would drastically increase the debt of the United States.
So basically, this idea that Joe Biden is touting would increase our debt, which is always a national security risk,
Right.
by the way. It would be fundamentally unfair to anybody who has paid taxes. It would overwhelm our hospitals, which would hurt American citizens who are seeking health care. It could possibly overwhelm our welfare system, our government system, to the point of destruction. Right. It would encourage more illegal aliens to come across our borders, not just counting the number of people who are already here, and that would increase perhaps the amount of Social Security numbers that would be stolen from otherwise law-abiding citizens. I don't see any benefits to this plan. It's remarkable to me that Joe Biden says these things and gets away with it.
Well, he's playing to the progressive radical left-wing groups that support him. They think this is a wonderful idea. You talk to the vast, overwhelming majority of Americans, and they would just shake their heads at the idea of this because they know it's the wrong thing to do.
Well, which is probably why the Biden campaign tries to hide Joe Biden in the basement as often as possible, because every time he opens his mouth, he offers us one of these lovely gems that the American people, the majority of the American people, are not on board with. Hans, thank you for breaking down the details. I appreciate it.